Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Hearts of Iron 4, the New Order, Last Days of Europe, with me, Alpha Pi Omega, and Empire of Japan. So in the last episode we've done very well. We finished our last focus, the riches continue, and now we need to wait for a sort of a paradigm shift that's gonna give us a new focus tree. Usually it happens when you finish some sort of event chain. It could be the one dealing with Kodaira and Tachi, or it could be a war breaking out, or something like that. We'll see. But for now, we are finished, and we're in a really good place. Our economy is doing well. We are having a pretty good year with surplus. We have a good real GDP growth, and debt to GDP, relative and actual, is dropping. Now, for today, I have a bunch of things that I want to talk about in regards to Army and Navy, because I have been looking at them in between episodes, and I want to do a little bit of a reform in some aspects. Nothing major for now, but still, we should look into it. So, we're going to do that, but first, we need to get rid of these two events, because we want to free up the screen so that we can look properly. So first of all, the showdown at La Escoba. Speculations about movement by paramilitaries in Uruguay have been commonplace since the police favor against the Quinta Columna in 1962. Recently, however, it appears that concrete proof of their resistance has come to light as unknown attackers try to assault the headquarters of the newspaper La Escoba with the apparent aim of killing the director, Omar Diaz. La Escoba has been denounced by both right and left-wing groups due to its connection to subversive elements, and Diaz himself has also had problems with Uruguayan justice in the past. More surprising than an attack on Diaz and his newspaper is the identity of the perpetrators, who, faced with unexpectedly stiff resistance from Diaz's security men, retreated, not without managing to leave behind a manifesto calling for the execution of all traitors in Uruguay. They don't have a name, so we'll call them death squads. By the way, if I have any Chinese or Japanese viewers, I would like to know what this says. I'm nowhere near able to translate anything in Japanese. When we were playing Germany, it says, I think, German Newsweek or something like that. So I wonder if this is just like news of the Empire of Japan or something like that. A little fine detail that you get these headers a little bit different. A clean and quick affair. The dust had settled, the guard accounted for, the debriefings finished. It had been almost too easy to seize the things they needed: information, the executive management, and a wide-reaching warrant for further investigation of the armed forces for suspected treason, illegal trafficking, and conspiracy against the emperor. An uneasy peace reigned in the meeting now, and Kodaira and Tachi used this peace to plan their next move. The two began by thanking the many people who had made this investigation possible, and Kodaira, stuffy as ever, bowed formally in gratitude. Embarrassed laughter rippled in the space of the hall. Moving to a serious note, the two warned the team that the information they currently had indicated possible breaches of trust going all the way to the upper echelons of the sphere, and that the government itself was deeply implicit. This means that keeping the investigation internal would be a suicide, both professionally and possibly physically. But how would this investigation be kept going without lethal consequences? Tachi introduced the plan to keep the armed forces accountable in the public eye. A 4-hour conference with the press of Japan, so wide-scale and exhaustive in detail that it would be irrefutable. Only with the truth could the investigation and their own lives be safeguarded. Kodaira ended on a cryptic note, warning them to keep to themselves. No one knew what would happen to the Kokisei when this was finished, but it was unlikely to be pleasant, and as for themselves, ominous. Okay, well, with that said, we have previously already transferred some of the Chiai Shidan units to Hohei Shidan template. I think that we have none here. So the last ones that we have are actually on the garrison duty, where we have, one last Chian Shidan unit. So I'm gonna change it to Hohei Shidan here. which is going to give it extra manpower, infantry equipment, anti-tank support equipment, and towed artillery. So let's get that one going. But I have noticed that we cannot actually obsolete the Chian Shidan, even though we have no more units, because it is a template used by occupational forces, which is kind of interesting. I did not realize that. Honestly, I should have, but this somehow, passed me, or maybe I don't remember that I even checked it out. But as we have no resistance, there really isn't any problem. What we need to do, on the other hand, in the Chian Shidan template now is to change it from the current template to one that will have military police, because that's going to give us a decent suppression bonus. I'm actually wondering if the recon doesn't give suppression as well. Nope, just the military police. Okay, so that should eventually free up a lot of manpower for us. It's going to ask for extra infantry and support equipment, but, it should be fine. It's going to impact 0 divisions, but that is fine. I'm going to put MP here just so that we do not forget. Actually, we won't forget. There's no point. So let's keep it as it is. And that means that all our units have been transferred to Hohei Shidan template. Now, in other steps, we're gonna put probably the support anti-tank and anti-artillery units just so that we have them everywhere. But what I noticed is that we are not actually producing anti-air equipment at all, because we don't have any in where was it? We don't have any in stock. Where is it? I don't even see here. Well, still, when I was checking it yesterday, it came out that we actually are not producing any anti-air equipment at all. So we need to fix that. Where is it? Here, basic anti-air. So I'm gonna put it up. Put it here next to the improved anti-tank equipment. I'm also going to rearrange this. I haven't done this in the beginning, which is a bit of a mistake. But it, shouldn't be that much of an issue. We're not producing that many things. What we need to do, however, we need to put more production units on it. And as it turns out, we had another shift, so we'll need to put 2 more in here and 2 more into these 2, which is gonna fix it. Furthermore, we want to start producing some submarines. Now, you guys know that we have 2 types of submarines. We have the type I-60 and type I-650, I think. Yeah, type I-60 and I-65. And I think we're going to design here type I-66, which is going to be an improved I-65 or I-650. I know why I call it I-65. It was I-650. Sorry about that. It's just, I guess, force of habit. So this one has 2 torpedo tubes equipped, and it has a 15,000 horsepower engine, which gives it a speed of about 28 knots. In this case, it's 23, but that doesn't matter. Still, we're gonna equip the new model with radar and give it more torpedo tubes, which doesn't really affect the speed. And we're gonna call it a I-660 class, or I-660. And we're gonna put it there, which is what we will produce. Now, we're still upgrading one of the Yamato classes. Once that one is done, we'll have 5 here, okay, and 5 on the submarines. Now, the I-650 is going to be translated into I-700, which is when we get the nuclear reactor available for our submarines. That's when I plan to actually put it there. Okay, so for some reason we have just gained 2. I guess the game is recalculating in on the behind while we're doing this stuff. Furthermore, Air Force, we want to look into it a little bit more once we finish the Navy, which is what's my next point. You guys have finished drilling. It's just this one Kaibukan Not 745 which needs to drill. So I'm going to transfer that to the training fleet, which will mean that you guys are all done. And we can start drilling the third Kantai, which is... Actually, no, not like that. We're going to drill all of you. I think we've drilled already the submarines here. Yep. So the third Kantai is now gonna drill, and then we have the fourth Kantai. And after that, we can start looking at reforming the Air Force. On the other hand, you know, while we're at it, we're still getting a pretty decent production, so maybe we won't even need to at that point. So with that said, let us unpause it, give the game a second to get a grip, and we can look at Madagascar and our operations there. So we have successfully taken a number of areas, including Tananarivo. So we'll encircle you guys. Let me just start this attack. You guys are going to take the what they call the Ambrositra Gap. Island Road. We need to take these so that the game moves to the next phase after the conflict, which should be escalation, I think we read. But now it's still the conflict. We have 46% support. In some nodes, it is just crazy. Okay, let's distribute weapon and supplies to our allies. That didn't do anything, but it's gonna give them equipment, which is always good. We don't want them to run out. I don't think they get a lot of their own production. Yeah, they get one factory, so any support we provide them is good. But it would be good if we could get you know, Madagascar into our sphere. A sweet goodbye. Mr. Kim had difficulty most days controlling his students. The schools in Incheon, so that's in Korea, were not well funded, especially for Koreans. Not only were the administrators putting extra pressure to emphasize Japanese cultural education, but any classes beyond conceptual were for the most part non-existent. It pained the teacher to watch his brightest students spend his class in boredom, craving a more rigorous curriculum. Perhaps he felt they needed a more inspiring class. Yes, their final chemistry course would be a lesson in the creation of the dragon's beard candy. All through the week, Mr. Kim practiced the recipe in his home, consulting with the retired confectioner in town, laboring in humid weather. Once he felt he had acquired a solid grasp, Mr. Kim went out and drew money from his savings, enough to make sure every student could make their own and then some. It would be unprofessional, but at least the kids would enjoy it. His pupils lacked the patience he had for the candy to turn into the wispy strings that the masters could make, but the joy in their eyes for a real experiment would never fade from Mr. Kim's memory. They had the chance today not just to recite and memorize what the Japanese administrators felt was best, but to create something truly Korean. A taste of freedom is the best meal. Oh, the Japanese boot is felt in many places. The President of the Supreme Soviet declared war on the Transbaikal Principality. So wars are happening. Okay, so you need to pass through here. And the poor divisions here are just gone. Okay, you guys can go back. Wait. Okay, so you're no longer drilling. You guys are. That's fine. We could improve relations. Stability 96% is actually really good. I bet that would affect our GDP significantly. Is there a stability modifier? Basement to power from country modifier. From taxes, from income taxes, from trade balance. Oh, nice. Lowered amount from the debt level. From modifiers. It's kind of interesting. It doesn't seem that stability is actually affecting it at all. I'm surprised. What about inflation? Factor output from high growth, from natural variation, consumer goods production factor. Huh, weird. Okay, never mind. Still, we don't have any effect of the last focus here. We'll see. Either way, let me just check if we have finished the... Okay, so 516 strategic bombers are missing. 631 interceptors. 417 COSAR support. And fighters. Fighters will be done in 2 years. That's pretty good. Getting better. We'll soon have enough to turn our next paratroopers into the next upgraded unit, which is good. And have we started producing, yep, the AA guns. 2 of them. Cool. So tie up the loose ends. The investigations team's complex of meeting rooms, drawing boards, and hallways was a complete mess. Here and there were scribbles and messy diagrams implicating almost every figure in the imperial government in one way or another, and the paperwork had seemed to come alive in the months since the initial murder. It tumbled merely down desks and out of cabinets splayed across rooms with any real sense of order, and the folders marked with cause for concern or need urgent attention were many, and few were resolved. It was all utterly unacceptable, and more importantly, potentially damaging to the press release. Kodaira and Tachi decided to refocus their effort on taking care of these loose ends to prevent any damaging information from leaking out and hurting their credibility. Given what half the papers in Japan were saying, their credibility was already in mortal peril. No further assistance was needed on that score. 3 main areas were identified for attention. The mountains of paperwork involved in the investigation had to be settled. The accounting of the financial flows between the Army and the Navy, at least those that could be tracked, finished with the help of external organizations, and the captives from the armed forces interrogated to reveal their dealings. The rest would be minor in comparison. Kodaira and Tachi nodded, scribbled notes on their books, and began to reorganize the complex. Even if the outside world was melting, they could restore order here, and perhaps even ensure their survival beyond that of the immediate future. Oh wow, look at this paperwork I just found. I mean, it has a certain romantic allure for me to see or to imagine working in such an environment where, pen and paper were the important parts, and you had to write down everything, and, no computers, just typewriters, and, yeah, I guess it would be nice. So where can we restore control? Here, for example. So let's restore control. 46% still. And we could distribute more weapon supplies. Increase our investment and our contribution? It will. Okay, well. Not entirely sure if this is the right way to go, but whatever. Special Forces training. Special Forces training for our agency. So the second one gave us 50% commando trait, and the next level is going to give us another 50%. Okay, so all of the new agents will have the commando trait. Trotting in the air. Sato turned the radio up, letting the soft musings of the violin, the plucking of the guitar, and the whispers of the accordion guide her to sleep. Beams of light shone through her window, giving her warmth. She knew the song well. It was The Street of Dawn, sung by Toyota Nadeshiko. Sato let her eyes droop, as Toyota began to sing through the speakers. Technically, it was illegal to be listening to this. Korean wasn't allowed on the radio, but something attracted her to the music. Her friend Kata had let her borrow some of her records, and she soon fell in love. The pleasant music stopped suddenly, replaced by yelling, ripping Sato out of her sleep before it could even start. "Let go! What the fuck are you doing?" A voice from what she could only presume was the radio personality grunted out. A second later, a loud thud was heard. Sato blinked, simultaneously unsurprised and somehow surprised that this happened. She rubbed her temples. Now she would have to find another station that played her music. And there were probably more arrests happening as she sat here. And what if the Toko knew that she listened to such music? What to do? What to do? She tuned into another station and lied down on the couch. Oh, snippets from the daily lives. Okay, so we go. Extras for production units. Settling accounts. The accounting of the armed forces had been limited by two factors, time and exhaustion. The team had suffered from crippling shortages of one and overabundance of the latter, and so examination had been brief and cursory, limited to the biggest single sources of revenue they could track down. Even then, details had been brief and limited to the strictly functional. Barebones examination worked well for presenting a bunch of confused military bureaucrats with evidence they weren't prepared to handle, but it wouldn't fly in the eyes of the press. Drastic improvements would have to be made by the time of the press release, and that day was drawing ever closer. The team pulled their reads from some of the minor accounting firms they had prior experience with and began work. It turned out that the money circulating around the sphere through this branch of the armed forces had been crafted by a few hands. More promisingly, it appeared to circulate around a few key agencies and departments rather than an endless mess of laundering through the many departments on the sphere. Even so, there was much to be done, and a simple task was not necessarily a straightforward one. During the briefing, one member of the team voiced his concern over the sheer amount of documentary evidence flowing through the complex. Boxes and boxes of files and documents, all of which could be compromised. Kodaira's face turned black and he left the room, while Tachi voiced the trademark assurance that security was tight as ever, but the truth was that no one truly knew how to safeguard this volume of information, and the time was drawing close when they would have to wield it. Crunch the numbers and we can worry about the security later. Well, not entirely sure that is the case. Well, they cannot send support, but we can. Kinda interesting that we are... Okay, need to go here. We can take Morondava. So these are... Oh god, there are... Okay, so here's the actual German units. We were so far facing only the colonial units. Interrogate the captives. The room was small and closed, padded just enough for the voices to resound off the walls. Standard police engineering. And who could forget the classic table and dim-lit lamp? Every cadet was taught that interrogation lay not in words, but in atmosphere. Okay. And this atmosphere had been delicately crafted, for the target had information that could save or doom the government of Japan. Kodaira looked through the case files. Everything seemed to be in order. Most of the captives they arrested through the raid had been career bureaucrats, fattened of government money. A cozy life in the military with limited training in combat would make them easy targets. A few days in confinement and a silken-gloved approach would scare them as much as any Yakuza lowlife. Not that the Yakuza ever visited the police. He then leafed through a well-worn copy of the list of key performance indicators the team had outlined. The usual requests were all there: money, transactions, agencies, names, and personal involvement. All informative, all useful, all critically incriminating, and a reminder: if the targets were reminded that they served no purpose except as hostages for the army and navy, which was true but only to an extent, they might prove more willing to negotiate. After all, the easiest way to surrender was through fait accompli. The target entered the room, held on either side by guards. Kodaira brought out his most wolfish smile and began to speak. "So, my friend, do you know why we're here?" So, Military Verwaltung Madagascar has defeated the disconnected settlement of Madagascar in war. Order creeps back to the island. Snap. Okay, so we are in danger of being encircled. Wait, no, we are not. Okay. So if we attack over here, we can connect to this territory. But this looks like an escalation happened. No, still stage 2 conflict. Okay. Okay. That's our research, that is fine. Navy, that is also fine. What do we have here? Another Yamato. So what, we have one battleship here, one battleship here, one here, two here. Okay, so I'm gonna join this one. So we'll have 2 and 2 in first and second Kantai. Why are you showing me this? I know that there's that happening. Okay, military spending went up a little, but the debt servicing dropped, so that is fine. Cleared the paperwork. After many hours of hard work, the papers justifying the investigation and the raid had finally been sorted and categorized. Huge stacks of papers have been moved, no longer lining every wall, but instead properly organized and stored. While that may finally have been completed, the security of the papers still remained in question, and many within the department worried that by centralizing and categorizing the papers, they had in fact just made it easier for their foes to seize the evidence and end so many months of hard work. However, there was a rumor that Tachi and Kodaira had a plan. Word around the department was that the 2 detectives, having foreseen the inevitable attempts by enemies to steal the papers, had organized for the documents to be moved and stored in a secure location. However, the 2 refused to confirm one question. Everyone on the investigation team hoped that they did indeed have a plan, because if the papers were lost, then all their work would have been for nothing, or even cause more harm than justice. They better have a plan. Well, they better. Oh, they've taken the capital again. Okay, so attack here, take this area. Just make sure that they do not bother us anymore. Okay, stage 3 warfare. The footsteps of giants. The investigation team had gathered once more, called by Tachi and Kodaira. The looks on the faces of the 2 detectives were grave. They wasted no time as soon as the team was gathered and got right to the business. They informed the team that despite their hopes, it seemed that there would be many foes yet to come in their fight for justice. No longer were just the Navy and the Army involved. It now seemed possible that those implicated could run all the way up to the Inno Clique itself. The Audit Bureau and the Central Command itself could try to get involved, along with the Army and the Navy Ministry. Kodaira sighed heavily before continuing. He gave an apology for dragging the entire team into danger, and expressed sincere regret that this could not have ended as simply another murder case. However, there was now a distinct possibility that the jobs, security, and even lives of everyone on the team was in serious danger. Because of this, 2 primary actions had to be taken. Firstly, security had to be tightened severely. Contact outside of close, trusted friends and family was to be reported and kept to a minimum. Secondly, a group life insurance policy was being taken out on the team in case any of them did end up losing their lives for justice. Though everyone on the team felt somber, they knew that these measures were necessary. They just wished they weren't. We can only pray. I love that this was a grim toolbox theory he started playing once I started reading that. Okay, and what can we do in here? So, emphasize strategic importance, we know that one. Create the Malagasy Air Force. Acceptable info. If selected and we have 40% influence in the no, this will increase our contribution by 7%, increase our investment by 6%, and decrease our factionalism. Okay, so this actually lowers our involvement. Marina sniper programs. Okay. Increases our contribution by 10%. Decreases our factionalism by 2%, and we send them equipment. And this also lowers our factionalism. So at this point we really don't want to take any one of those, because it will most likely hurt us. Our strength is 20%. Well, okay. We'll investigate a bit more in the next episode. For now, we'll just finish what we were doing. Wait, there's one that... Oh! Okay, here's our unit. I was wondering where it is, and it's the one actually fighting here. Eliminating the enemy here. Okay, so we took Tananarivo again. Did that do anything? Nope. Okay, so just move down here. You can actually go down here. I will keep you at the border and we'll see what we can do. Maybe it would be in our best interest to actually slow down until we can get our... until we can get the public opinion a bit more in favor of ourselves. Okay, let's read the head of the law and call it an episode. The meeting was brief and rather underblown. The head of the department called up Tachi and Kodaira with a subtle but noticeable note of annoyance in his voice. He tersely congratulated them on their good work and then sent them back without a further word. As soon as the meeting was over, he called them back to speak with them privately. Contradicting his praise from just a few moments ago, he chastised the two. His voice was constantly on the edge of true and furious anger. He exclaimed that the two had gone simply too far in their pursuit of justice, and had put not just the department, but all of the police of Japan in a dangerous situation. He explained that while the police were furious, the public perception and the demand for justice had forced them to take the detective's side. Preparations were already being made to obtain a huge amount of warrants and authority to arrest many in high positions of power. The department had shook his head and told the two detectives that if this ended poorly, they were no longer just endangering themselves, but in fact almost everyone in the Japanese police. He concluded by saying that he hoped to the heavens that Tachi and Kodaira could handle what was coming. We did too. So wait, did the conference already happen? I'm not sure. And I think nor is the game. It seems a little bit out of place, but maybe... because they already issued the warrants, so that would mean that... oh well, never mind. Anyway, thank you very much for joining me, and I'll see you in the next episode.